Namaskar and welcome to the show, exciting show Sattology, which is means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which is science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. So, a lot of books we have published, a lot of vlogs. You can watch our channel, and also you can follow us on Instagram and also on Telegram if you want to see Sattology course on Telegram and Instagram is Sattology. So I have a very special guest, a very good friend. So let's welcome Abhijit Iyer Mitra.
Thank you, friends, and may the Spirit of our Lord in Christ be with all of you.
Abhijit, like the Russian-Ukraine conflict is very strange nowadays. Like in terms of Ukraine is claiming
There's nothing strange. The Russians have run. Okay. What we don't understand is why they've pushed back, because see, there are some areas we're seeing destroyed Russian equipment. But for a large part, like a 30, 40-kilometer gap, we're not seeing any destroyed Russian equipment. So clearly they haven't been pushed back, but they've run. As in they've abandoned equipment and run. So we don't really know what explains it. Yeah, in India, you've got master stroke vadis, who in every one of Modi's defeats sees a great victory, and it's like how Hitler's radio used to every withdrawal was a great strategic retreat. In India, you have these master stroke vadis who claim that Modi is playing 10-dimensional chess. In Russia, also you have these, and of course you had American think tanks who were telling you, how every defeat is actually part of the plan and whatnot. You have the same in Russia as well. You have all these crazies saying it's part of a great plan to bring Ukrainian forces out into the cauldron to extend their supply lines and things like that, and then crush them in one big battle. I doubt that very much. What we're seeing is that the Russians seem to have moved back to some kind of a defensive line. Now, will that line also hold? I don't know.
Yeah, it seems to be like a tactical retreat kind of thing because they moved the whole lock, stock, and barrel is back.
Yeah,
it is looks like a tactical move, but Ukrainians, like I was reading an independent report, says that 1:5, like for every Russian soldier, five. So Ukraine has suffered a severe manpower loss in this country, severe, for this offensive.
it's unfortunately that's possibly going to be true. Remember, Russian troops aren't terribly well trained either. So they're also meat grinder troops in that sense. But Ukrainian troops, some of them were extremely well trained by the West. The last 8 years since the annexation of Crimea, Russian troops have trained very systematic. Ukrainian troops trained very systematically by the West. It was President Trump who had a lot to do with that, incidentally. But that is some troops. It is not the bulk of the troops. The rest of the troops are horribly untrained and they're being used as meat grinders. Meat grinder fodder.
9/11 incident, like recently the New York Times, New York Post did not cover anything on the headlines. Nothing was there in the headlines. And I'm just driving a contrast that how the leftist media all over the world works the same way. They work against the common will of the people everywhere. That's the leftist media all about it. So it was made a big issue out on Fox, and I will speak about how Tucker Carlson also doesn't know some facts. He called Victoria Terminus as a great British contribution to the Indian state.
But it's true. I mean, I agree with everything Tucker Carlson said. It is the last pretty building built in India. You show me one building that has been built since then by independent India that can even remotely be called beautiful.
I mean, British Victoria.
Honestly, Adi, if I were to remove my shorts and bare my butt cheeks on your show, that is prettier than that is prettier than all buildings built in India since independence. I think the characteristic of modern India, not ancient India built lots of beautiful things, but modern India is the complete lack of aesthetics, the complete lack of taste, the complete lack of any kind of refinement of sophistication. And like I said, my butt cheeks after literally me displaying my butt cheeks as a higher architectural achievement than post-independence Indian architecture.
You left me speechless. I don't know what to say, what to add here. So anyway,
Well, it's the truth.
but the see, look at it. Like if you look at from the European point of view, I cannot recount any buildings. I do not know. So I cannot recount, but I can say one thing that I have seen like Lotus Temple, beautiful temple, but built as is a private institution. And there are some like the I cannot recall anything, but I what I can recall is the bridges, the roads, the infrastructure. Now today, what the train quality is that? Don't you think those are better construction things needed? Because Victoria Terminus was mostly like which was built for commemorating the Queen, commemorating the British Raj, and like when you are listen, like when you are in a place where the common necessities are more like which need more focus, why would a big building will do like so British Empire of building the Victoria Terminus is like lipstick on a pig or lipstick on some
No, I'm sorry, it is not. They invested in public services. You look at every British investment in a public service in India, it was done with great aesthetic sense. Okay, you brought up since then. India does not have a single pretty bridge. There are lots of pretty bridges in the West, modern bridges, which are very pretty. Okay, India does not have any aesthetic sense when it comes to public architecture. Maybe there are one or two private homes which we haven't seen, but it's very curious that the one example you brought up, the Lotus Temple, which is technically, I mean, it's private foundation but public architecture because the public can access it, though it's not public infrastructure, was built by an Iranian American architect. He had nothing to do with India, right? His name is Faribor Sahba. So even the one piece of architecture that you can find in India is not built by an Indian. Indians build like shit. We're a third world country that builds third world trash.
now what about the new Parliament House and which is being coming up in India and also the Kartavya Path which is being beautified.
No, so that is urban planning. But remember that urban planning takes a lot from the French philosophy of architecture. Even your new parliament is essentially a modern take on Lutyens architecture. It's meant to mimic all the styles of that pink sandstone architecture that Lutyens used for Delhi, because it's meant to blend in with all of that, right? So again, I have not seen any good Indian architecture period since the British left.
So let me ask you one question now, since we are on this. In your imagination, and what would you see if Indians were to take your idea? What should they build, which will be like, which will build like better, more beautiful than Victoria Terminus? I
Look,
can
there are
count
lots.
Swaminarayan temples, beautiful temples. Isn't that in no?
No.
No, but what is your idea will be like, which is Indian as well as a architectural masterpiece?
So there's actually a very pretty modern temple, uh, but it doesn't really count as grand architecture. It's a private temple that I've seen, right? And it's done in a very traditional way and yet in a very modern way. But that's just one example, and that's again private property. See, it's not public architecture. Uh, in terms of public architecture, what could they build that would be? See, I'm not a big fan in a country that has an architectural tradition like India of doing what China does, which is getting a Norman Foster to design a thing and then claim it's your architecture. Clearly, it's not Chinese architecture, it's Western architecture, right? A glass skyscraper, again, Like Burj Al Dubai is again not built by Dubainese. I don't know what is a Dubai native called, uh, 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 a Dubainese company and things like that. It's all Western architecture replicated in other places. I really don't know. I really don't know. But even in terms of traditional, uh, uh, rather modern interpretations of traditional architecture, they're hideous. I think one of the buildings that has been built is the Vidhan Sabha, which is the state legislature of Bangalore, of
Vidhan
Karnataka state. It's hideous. Have you seen the interior of it? It looks like a set from one of those Ekta Kapoor videos. Uh, so for the audience who don't know, Ekta Kapoor makes really, really bad Indian soaps. It's like really trashy stuff like Bold and the Beautiful and Santa Barbara and all those D grade. I mean, there were good grade soaps like, Dynasty and things like that, the original Dynasty. But then you have F grade soaps like Bold and the Beautiful and what was it, Passions and Santa Barbara. And that's what the interior looks like. On the other hand, is there any way I can share my screen here? Yes, I can share my screen. Let me share screen.
Yeah.
Host disable participant sharing screen. Why have you disabled my screen sharing?
No. Now you can share. Now you can share. Check it now.
Okay. Now, 1 second. Let me just bring up stuff. Karnataka. Let me just keep all the windows open.
Yeah. Vidhan Sudha, they call it.
Vidhana Sauda. Now this, and let me open image. 1 second. Let me just get all the slides ready. And then Southern Railways Building, Madras. And there is this. Oh yeah. Open image in new tab. Okay. So now let me share my screen. Okay. Now share screen. Desktop. Yes. Okay. Share. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, so this is the Vidhana Sauda building. Can you see this?
Yeah, beautiful.
It's really not. It's hideous. Look at all the blue crap on the balconies and things like that. Very badly designed. And let me actually show you more. Vidhana Sauda interior. Sauda interior. Where is the... Look at this. Just look at this. It is so hideous. It is so hideous. It has no taste, it has no class, it has nothing. On the other hand, this building was actually modeled after another building called the Southern Railways headquarters in Madras, which the British built. Look at this. What a pretty building. The proportions are perfect. The Brits, you see, knew how to build. Right? And you can see this. This is how pretty it is.
No, the one thing is like the British, they did a good they did a good mix of Indian, they used the Indian architects, but
They did.
and they use them. But like when you like, it's just like in software industry, when you interfere with a solution architect
And
plan. Yeah,
and I want to show you how badly the interior of the building has been destroyed. They've put up all these, can you see these fake partitions that they've put up?
correct. Yes.
And the floors and crap like that, and they have completely destroyed it. Now I want you to see the Madras High Court, Chennai High Court building. It is so pretty. It's a style called the Indo-Saracenic style. It almost looks like the Kremlin. Almost. Look at that. How pretty is that? See, even the dome, which is so misshapen here, look at this. Just to put the lion on top, they designed the dome like this. Look how pretty they designed this. So you see, the British had taste.
They had kept the temple
Modern
architecture,
in
Pallava temple architecture, they have put it over there in the domes.
it is. So this is the thing. So if you look at the Tanjore temple, I want to show you this. You see the finial here? It mimics the finial here.
Exactly, exactly.
So why is it? Can you see this? This part is exactly like that Chennai
Yes,
High Court building.
yes,
This thing.
yes.
So why is it that the British could take our architecture, fuse it with international styles, and make it so wonderful, and Indians fundamentally cannot? Today, when a temple is built, so you said Swaminarayan temple, which there are several Swaminarayan temples.
Take the Delhi one.
Temple Delhi. See, the thing of a modern society is it does not keep replicating the old. It keeps coming up with new. Everything about this is copied from old temples.
Yeah.
Let's open in new tab. So, tell me what's new. It's very impressive in size, sure, but it's a replicate of what has already existed. It doesn't even do the mixing and matching required.
Yeah, it has a single red stone construction, which is, even the palaces built by the Rajput kings in Rajasthan are so very beautiful, extremely beautiful.
Mm.
I mean, but still it will be considered old. So,
But
like,
but those are all pre. Those are all pre. So everybody seems to like the what is it? The Udaipur Palace.
yeah, Udaipur
What's it
Palace,
called? Uh,
Udaipur, Jodhpur Palace, any one of them.
no, the Udaipur Palace again was constructed during the British. This thing, no.
No,
Umaid Bhavan
before British.
Palace.
Before British. It was before British.
Umaid Bhavan Palace, Jodhpur. Uh, no, the Umaid Bhavan Palace was constructed during British rule. It's not my favorite building, but still. But then see the thing about. See, it's pretty impressive. But this was built during the British times by an Indian Raja, but during the British times.
I mean,
Why can't, and see, this at least was built by an Indian prince during British times for himself, not public architecture. Why can India not build civilized public architecture? Third world country. Remember, the hallmark of a third world country is extremely low human capital, as we keep discussing.
I mean, I don't agree with Tucker Carlson's the entire thing that what British did to India and everything, but still,
Look,
I mean,
so here's the thing. No empire is 100% good. The British did lots of horrible things. Okay. But on balance, they also did lots of good things. As far as colonial masters went, they were probably the most benevolent colonial masters we could have had. Okay. In terms of rule of law, they were way ahead of any other colonial masters. Do you think the Mughals were better at rule of law than the British? No. Were the Turks, any of the Delhi sultanates, better at rule of law of the British? No. Was the Vijayanagar Empire better at the rule of law than the British? No. Was the Maratha Empire better at the rule of law than the British? No. They brought in something called the rule of law. They unified us politically. Sure, they divided us also, but they also unified us politically, right? They crushed all the internal Maharajas, so you couldn't have an internal rebellion when they decided to hand it over to the Dominion of India. So I'm not saying the British didn't do bad things. Every colonial power does horrible things, like Jallianwala Bagh massacre. But you tell me, you compare the French massacres, German massacres, or for that matter, even Mughal or Delhi Sultanate massacres before that, and you compare it to what the British did. Okay, minimal. So on balance, and I can tell you, there's a whole culture. So, for example, in Bengal, my grandparents, great grandparents, their entire memory was how horrible Sirajuddaulah was, and how Robert Clive did them a great favor by liberating them from Muslim rule. It was relief that they felt, right? And remember, even your independence, you got by British trained lawyers and British trained educated classes. Tell me one freedom fighter who wasn't British trained. So it's a very mixed bag. It's very easy. It's very fashionable to just throw the British under the truck like that. But you remember, even in 1857, when the first War of Independence, so-called War of Independence, broke out, how many British were there in India? 40,000. 40,000 controlling a population at that time of about, what, 200 odd million? 40,000 controlling a population of 200 million. Imagine हम कैसे चमन चूतिए थे. We were the biggest bunch of duffers and good for nothings on earth if 200 million of us couldn't fight 40,000 British men. And that included women as well, incidentally. That is how useless India has become.
Yeah. See, the thing is, like, if you look at the country, if you look at the growth of a country, is the economy and the Indian economy and the institutions which are destroyed, like the trade which was destroyed. Now, one thing I will give it to you, one thing we'll give it to you, that the Indian, the what do you call it, the self-respect, self-identity was so low that it needed a foreigner to unite Indians for something. In Japan, there is a very common saying: you take 10 good Indian engineers and you put a Japanese project manager, then everything goes well. But if you have 10 Indian engineers and put an Indian project manager, the project will not see light of the day. That is a common Japanese saying in projects. So this is what
Which
they.
shows you the need for colonization. So India needs Japanese colonization, or Korean colonization,
I won't
or
say that.
Taiwanese
I
colonization.
won't say that. I won't say that because
That's exactly what it is. Self-rule, independence is a project management skill. Okay, what is administration? It is project management at the national level. So if you can't project manage, you are just fit to be laborers. Just because you're white collar, it doesn't mean you're not a laborer. So an Indian engineer is essentially a white collar laborer, and that's it.
see in India, the project management, program management, like I'll give an example. Like if you go away from the cities, like you go to like traditional places like Dabbawala of Mumbai, they're not very fancy, but their delivery and like the management is way more advanced than any modern Indian management. They take care. It's an Indian way of managing thing. Mumbai Dabbawala. This is one example. And like that Varkari Sampradaya, like if you look at any of these yatras which happen, very well organized. Like from I don't know, I know Maharashtra. I'm born in Sholapur.
Look, the yatras, what you have to do, there you take trucks that are full of food and water and medical equipment, ambulance. You plot out on the road where all the stops are, where you stay for night, and you need to have facilities to bathe in the morning.
But
Okay,
50 million people, 60
Dabbawalas,
million people, 60 million.
Dabbawalas, the institution of Dabbawalas itself shows you how backward you are, that you still need food delivered from home because your local office can't provide for it. You don't have the wealth to be able to go out. In DC and things like that, you either bring your lunch from home because everybody has a high income standard. Dabbawalas are a tribute to the fact that you simply haven't been able to lift everybody out of poverty.
No, but if you look at it another perspective from Dabbawala, like the whole
Sure,
concept of what the
Dabbawalas are
Dabbawala,
very well managed. I
like,
agree. Dabbawalas are very well managed.
you know, yeah.
Okay, but remember, the formation is essentially that of a medieval trade guild.
No, the philosophy is something else. Like people want to have the home food delivered at the right time. So because like in Indian tradition, thing is like the food has to be cooked 1.5 hours, 2 hours before it is delivered. Exactly what happens. That it is food is fresh, cooked, it's still hot, it gets delivered to every single office. That's the whole concept. It's not the poverty, it's not something else. Most of these people who get dabba, they can afford any food, they can buy anything. They're not poor. Most of the people who get delivered.
I would seriously dispute that. I would seriously dispute that. It is because your food with a dabbawala delivered from home, the raw materials won't cost more than 40-50 rupees, and the delivery maybe will cost another 40-50 rupees per person. Okay. Whereas if you go out, a coffee today in India, at a cafe coffee day, a small cappuccino costs you 240 rupees. Right? There is absolutely nothing preventing that food from coming with you in the morning and being heated up in a microwave.
So it's a different philosophy altogether. Heating up. See, most of the Indian families or
It is
even
it is not a different philosophy. It is a indication of how backward we are in terms of our social development. It is a very functional system in an antiquated system, but it is an antiquated system nevertheless.
see the microwaving is. I can tell you in my family also, we don't microwave anything. We have fresh food and no microwaving. We use microwaving for extreme. Like people do that where we have to like we have guessed something or we are doing like that. Anyway, I'll change the topic because we've done enough bashing. So now we'll change the topic. Okay. So the coming to the the global. This is the whole show is about his expertise on global. Now with Tucker Carlson, I disagree, and he agrees with Tucker Carlson right now. And Tucker Carlson is the new villain of many Indians in North America, Indian Americans, as well as others. Now, okay. So now the we need some enemies, otherwise we can't unite. So the
Mhm.
coming to the India and China, with this, which what is going on at the borders, the tango again. Is India accepting the Chinese occupation of those lands also right now, where they are signing a peace agreement?
Look, the situation in Pangong is with us because there's a little the base there at Finger 4, which is status quo. The one in Gogra is pretty much against us because the Chinese have only moved back 500 meters. We've moved back something like 12-15 kilometers. Right. So, in effect, we might have just ceded that valley to them.
Doesn't it surprise you that we're talking so much about strong India and we are accepting everywhere? We're not negotiating strong on the borders. Is it the diplomacy
The,
losing or the army
the
losing?
answer the answer is in your question. We talk about strong India. We don't do anything about strong India. See, we're a country of slogans. Okay, we're kind of like China under Mao Zedong. Everything is a slogan. Policy is a slogan. Let a thousand flowers bloom. Let the people arise. Let us throw away capitalist oppression. Down with the landowners, etc. Down with the petty bourgeois. Atmanirbhar Bharat. Vishwaguru Bharat. This is all yak nonsense.
It's
Basically, a packet of kibbles or pedigree, a 10 kilo packet of kibbles or pedigree has more value added in it than all this Atmanirbhar Bharat Vishwaguru India.
you know, I mean, it just surprises me. Like we're talking about all these guns, all these BrahMos missiles and all these new frigates getting launched, and Taragiri was launched, and it's going to take 2 3 years more to get fitted. But we are not seeing any action on the ground. On the action on the ground, the military should help us to make some agreements, but we are not doing that. I mean, we are still accepting Chinese.
But Adi, how often have we discussed this? I mean, we're having the same conversation every single time, right? Let's move on to something new.
So the latest, you're right, absolutely, because we're talking the same things here on especially strategic side. Now, if you see the latest report now coming out, the latest report on the Google moving their phone business to India. And do you think it's going to help India, or this is just another cheap manufacturing location moving away from China to India?
Look, any manufacturing is welcome. Even if it's assembly, it's welcome. What I want to know is it just an assembly unit or is it a high-end manufacturing unit? Okay, because if it's assembly, I'm not so enthusiastic about it. I mean, I'm still enthusiastic because it's some kind of jobs. There's some skills required even in assembly, right? And it will be relatively higher pay than most blue collar labor is. However, where are all the high end parts in that coming from is what I really want to know.
So one last question has come from the audience. India recently pulled out of some trade deal on the Indo-Pacific area. And was it as a response of America supplying 450
That
million dollars for
that
it?
that no. That's not recent. India didn't join RCEP right at the beginning. We said we won't join RCEP 3 4 years back.
No, RCEP was Chinese, but this is American Quad deal for the
I
Asia Pacific.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
So thank you, Abhijit, and thank you for all the viewers for joining. Do share, like, subscribe. And today was very interesting conversation. And Abhijit shows his screen also on the architectures in India. Thank you, Abhijit, for joining.
Thank you, audience. Very kind. And remember, my ancestors, I'm not like Adi. My ancestors were originally from Ukraine and Germany, and we came and settled and invaded and civilized these native savages. And as you can see, I'm totally white with blonde hair and blue eyes, and I'm a total white supremacist. Thank you. Long live white supremacy.
Thank you.